Hey, middle-aged musician here. It's been a while. Sorry. Life things. Anyway, I got a package from Czechoslovakia yesterday. It is the Warhead amp. It's, as you can see, it's not very big. So let's open this up and see what we have. Shall we? First of all, let's see how it's packed. I do like the Warhead tape on it. You know what it is right away. So don't want to report pirates, but hey, I guess maybe they have good taste. So yeah, it looks like we've got some nice foam. If you can see that packed inside. Some nice foam that is packed well enough. I'm going to have to pry it out. The manual, short, brief little manual, a sticker, and then this tiny little amp that is really in here tightly. Let's see here. See if I get this pulled out. Okay, most of the way there. This thing weighs almost nothing. So there's the front of the amp, the back of the amp. We'll plug this into some different cabinets, take a gander inside. Let's see what else is in the box. There's another box at the bottom. Very well packed, I will say. One of the better packing jobs of an amp. So we have our IEC power plug cable and a box full of... yes, so it just runs on DC. It's got the power brick. Forgot about that. Yeah, so the IC goes into the power brick, and this is I'm too old to read this with my eyes, but yeah, so that is how it's powered. So anyway, let's go ahead and start listening to this thing. Okay, I've had the Warhead for about a week now. I've been playing around with it. It is kind of a one-trick pony. It's interesting that you turn gain all the way down. It still has some volume and it's still distorted. So that's an interesting fact. First, we're going to run through the tone control, the various controls on the amp. I have the specs from the Warhead website that I'm going to put up here in a minute that show what the controls are and what they do. But basically, I'm going to take the controls, start them at noon, back them up off all the way, move them up all the way, and see what kind of sounds you get from it. All of these clips are taken using Paul Reed Smith CE. It's the bolt-on neck one. It's a little bit brighter. And going with the stock pickups, going into the Warhead, going into a 212 cabinet loaded with Celestion Vintage 30s. Now that we see what the various controls do or don't do, they do affect it, the tone a little bit. But we're going to run it through a couple different cabinets. I have 4 212 cabinets selected. The first one is a Avatar 212 closed back with vintage 30s in it. Or no, open back, I'm sorry, open back with vintage 30s. The second cabinet is a Avatar 212 loaded with Fane speakers from the 1980s that were taken from a Laney AOR, a little more mid-centric. The third cabinet we're going to go through is again an open back Avatar cab loaded with a Celestian greenback and a Celestian blue Alnico blue. And the fourth cabinet is a seismic audio cabinet with 2 Eminence Cannabis Rex speakers in it. And then just using room mics that are placed more or less equidistant from all of the cabs. Let's take a gander at this a little more closely. It's very, very small. I swear I have pedals that weigh more than this thing does. It's got some rubber feet on the bottom and a little back panel. So one of the first things I notice on the back panel here is that there are no cup washers. I always like to see that on something like this because it's like a 2-cent part, but it just gives a little more sense of quality, if that makes sense. It seems just a little better made when I see is my my impression. So let's pull this out. So that's kind of nice. It has this is a piece of it's plywood, I'm sure, but it's not particle board. In the cabinet, so you can see just how small this amp is. So let's go ahead and pop it out of the chassis by removing these 4 little feet. Okay. So there we have it, boys and girls. This is the amp. So we have a fuse, a couple of jacks, circuit for the controls. So these are all mounted on the circuit board. You will notice there's a couple of trim resistors. So you can probably tweak a couple of the settings. Just going to hazard a guess. This guy is between the bass and mid, so that might affect that aspect of the tone stack. And this guy's between the treble and mid. I could hazard a guess. Can't really read the traces too much without taking it out. And then this is the crux of the amp. So, you know, you could almost put this entire thing in a pedal. In fact, you could put this in a pedal, but that's why it's so lightweight. But yeah, it's reasonable. It's not the thickest, but it's not the thinnest board. The traces look good. There's a couple of diodes there, some little capacitors. They've got some components stacked. I'm not sure how easy it is to see that. Yeah, there we go. Let's see here. The board stacked there a little bit, but yeah, that's the inside of the Warhead. Not sure if that design has any purpose other than keeping it cool, but there's its guts.